Hi, welcome to American Reversion, and welcome to Freedom Friday on February 26, 2021. I'm Steve Smith. I took a break this week from putting lectures from Larry Arnn of Hillsdale College over on um, the Patreon site and put up Rush Limbaugh's speech from CPAC in 2009. It is called The Speech That Started a Movement, and it is something to listen to. If you heard it way back then, you remember it. If you've never heard it, you should listen to it. And it's actually something that we should all listen to periodically. Keep it fresh in our mind because it not only reminds us or illustrates the principles that we operate according to, but it helps us to be able to formulate how we want to communicate that to others in our discussions as we try to educate some of our population who needs it. So anyway, that's over on the Patreon site today for Freedom Friday. I encourage you to go over there. Thanks for all of you who have come over to Patreon. I really appreciate that. If you'd like to support this channel, that's a great way to do it. Today, however, I want to read something from the Family Research Council. Is that if I got it right? It's Tony Perkins' organization. Yeah, Family Research Council. I thought I had that right. And it's about what's going on in the Capitol, the military-style barriers. The title that he's given it here is Democrats Consider Permanent Military-Style Barrier Around Capitol. Interesting, and many people have made this point that they don't want a wall to keep people from invading our country, but they do want all sorts of walls and fences and razor wire around the Capitol to keep themselves, their little precious selves, safe from the unwashed masses of us out here. And so I'm just going to read Perkins' article here, in case you haven't, and probably not. And then we might say a couple of things afterwards. I think that you'll enjoy hearing this, and it does fit in with our Freedom Friday. Okay, he starts. Congressional Democrats are considering a permanent military-style barrier around the U.S. Capitol. In addition, 7,000 National Guard soldiers and airmen will stay another month in the city, and 5,000 troops will remain thereafter indefinitely. Capitol Hill, under the Democrats, looks more like the infamous crossing Checkpoint Charlie between East and West Berlin when the Communists controlled Eastern Europe. It seems the Democrats have forgotten the violence of last summer when left-wing rioters looted and burned, I should have cleaned my glasses, and burned private and public buildings throughout Washington, D.C. and many other cities. Rioters killed at least 12 people, injured hundreds of police officers, and destroyed up to $2 billion worth of property. The worst rioting occurred in Portland, Oregon, where nightly attacks on federal buildings cost $2.3 million. Democrats and their media allies called the nightly looting rituals mostly peaceful protests and aggressively criticized President Trump for deploying federal agents to reinforce outnumbered police forces. They also called Mr. Trump Bunker Boy when the Secret Service installed a temporary anti-riot fence around the White House complex after rioters tore apart barricades and injured scores of law enforcement personnel with projectiles. The rioters gathered daily on 16th Street Northwest, north of the White House, which D.C.'s Democrat mayor named Black Lives Matter Plaza. They lit fires and taunted police officers. Every night at dusk, violence recommenced. I witnessed the mayhem myself as I had to walk through the riot line last summer to get to Family Research Council's headquarters. After Mr. Trump delivered his RNC acceptance speech, a mob surrounded and attacked Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky and his wife as they and others left the White House complex. When Mr. Trump activated the National Guard in the District of Columbia, Democrats again condemned the militarized police presence. Meanwhile, businesses in downtown D.C. were left to protect themselves. Property owners, including my own organization, hurriedly responded to rioters smashing windows and looting stores overnight by installing plywood window covers and hiring extra security. Bands of protesters roved around the city, blocking roads and intimidating diners. Do we all remember this? We do remember this, but the media doesn't. Too many people have forgotten this and need to be reminded. Yet we heard little from the Democrat leaders other than words of praise for those standing up and exercising their First Amendment rights. The anticipation of leftist violence after Election Day from a Trump re-election victory led many establishments to board up. However, Joe Biden was elected. Really? And the board started coming down. The actions of property owners suggest they sensed the left was satisfied and would not return to their burning and looting. However, if you walk by the Capitol, you'd think the threat is greater than ever. Actually, you can't even get close to the Capitol. 8-foot fencing topped by razor wire cordons off streets up to 4 blocks away. Around the clock, National Guard service members in military fatigues with automatic weapons stand at 20-yard intervals. The Pentagon is now projecting that the federal government will spend $483 million in security costs at the U.S. Capitol. It's a scene worthy of a third world dictatorship, not the United States of America. Democrats in Congress insist the measures are necessary because of the Capitol riot on January 6. But in reality, they don't want to waste a good crisis which would allow them to expand power and control. Let me be clear. Conservatives agree that what happened on January 6 at the Capitol was despicable. Lawless activities cannot uphold the law, whether on Capitol Hill or the Hatfield Federal Courthouse in Portland. But if any evidence points to the possibility of a repeat attempt, it is a well-kept secret. Democrats have forgotten that the U.S. Congress is the people's house. Americans have always had the right to enter the U.S. Capitol to visit their representatives and senators and to petition the government as the First Amendment provides. None of this makes much sense if, like the House Speaker says, the enemy is within. Or, as she later clarified, it means that we have members of Congress who want to bring guns on the floor and have threatened violence on other members of Congress. She has slapped fines on members of Congress for failing to submit to invasive security protocols she doesn't follow herself. Big surprise. As I remember it, it was Democrat politicos like Congressman Maxine Waters, California Democrat, and now Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, New York Democrat, who harassed Trump aides at restaurants, called for violence against Trump supporters, and threatened U.S. Supreme Court justices. This is the essence of a double standard. Okay, there's no surprise there about the double standards. I want to get back to that in a second. The razor wire fence around the Capitol is more than just a security measure. It represents what's happening to freedom in America. That's right. When elites shut out the people, the American people, from their own government, we have a real problem. After the Oklahoma City bombing, President Clinton temporarily being in quotes, closed Pennsylvania Avenue in front of the White House to vehicle traffic. The street is still closed today. A long-term razor wire barrier around the U.S. Capitol may never come down unless we speak out. The real threat to America's future and our freedom is that the American people will be taken in by this political theater and will surrender liberty for a pretense of security. As East Berlin was once known for Checkpoint Charlie, Washington, D.C., once the emblem of freedom, will become known for Checkpoint Pelosi and the stifling of freedom. Well, that was a great column, and he is exactly right. One thing that I did want to say, and I caution against this, we tend to, or at least, no, I don't, but I've read so many articles and columns recently that seem to harp on this hypocrisy on the part of Democrats. Okay, that's nothing new, and they couldn't care less. Being called out for their hypocrisy doesn't dent them, nor does it dent their followers. And really, it really has very little effect on the undecided in there. So the continual harping on hypocrisy, while I understand it, it's a very limited benefit when we're trying to argue against the principles on which the other side stands. The main thing that we need to concentrate on is the systematic attack on our constitutional rights. and the empowering of a police state, the continual growth of the security state and the police state, and those so-called security measures who spoon-fed to us in the name of our safety and security continue to limit our rights as American citizens. This is what I try to impress on the people that I talk to, and I would suggest that we all do that. Let's concentrate. Let's talk about these infringements of our rights, and let's be able to explain to the people we talk to exactly what a right is and where they come from and how important they are. So I'll leave it there with that. Tell you again, that speech of Rush's at CPAC 2009 is over on the Patreon channel. I encourage you to go over and listen to that thing. You are going to want to listen to it over and over and over again and share it with your friends, because this is the kind of thing that started a real movement, and it will reinforce it at a time where we really need it reinforced. So with that, I'll bid you a happy Freedom Friday. Remember that America needs a reversion, and it needs you to be a part of it. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.